So President Trump keeps insisting that the enriched uranium will be removed from Iran, that it'll be taken over by the United States, saying that it's a red line. And then there's been other statements that he's made recently where he said, well, it's buried deep underground. We'll have to go in and get it. All kinds of talk about what's going to happen to the enriched uranium. And of course, it's very important. You got to get the enriched uranium out. It's enriched to 60%. We don't even know where it is. We don't know if Iran has access to any of it. And that could be a very dangerous situation. And that's why it's such a red line in all of this. I want to go through some recent headlines and really focus in on Russia and China, who seem to be protecting Iran in this whole story, and have also both at various points offered to take the uranium themselves. So I want to drill down into this. This should be, I hope this is interesting. I found this story very interesting as I was researching it, and I hope that you do too. So let's get into the headlines. And this is headline from today. IAEA board passes resolution demanding Iran report uranium stocks. This is from today from Vienna. The UN nuclear watchdog's 35-nation board of governors passed a US-backed resolution on Wednesday telling Iran to declare its remaining enriched uranium stocks and let inspectors verify them, which could complicate Washington's talks with Iran. But if you're going to say it could complicate the talks, remember, this is a US-backed resolution. The move came within hours of the U.S. and Iran trading military strikes after U.S. President Donald Trump said Iran had downed a U.S. Apache helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. Israeli and U.S. attacks in June of last year destroyed or badly damaged Iranian uranium enrichment plants, but much of the enriched uranium they produced, including material close to weapons grade, is thought to have survived. Iran still has not informed the International Atomic Energy Agency of the fate of that material or let IAEA inspectors return to the bomb sites to check. The U.S. led the push for the resolution, but Iran has called it whitewashing military aggression, since inspectors had access before the strikes. The resolution text submitted by the United States, Britain, France, and Germany was passed with 21 votes in favor, 3 against, and 10 abstentions. Diplomats at the closed-door meeting said the countries opposing were Russia, China, and Niger. I don't know how it's pronounced, they said. The Israeli regime's and America's attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities halted verification activities and forced agency inspectors to leave Iran for safety reasons, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi said on X before the vote of the Board of Governors. Now America seeks to turn the consequences of its illegal attack into a case against the Islamic Republic of Iran. You see what he's saying here? He's saying, well, the only reason the inspectors aren't there is because they had to leave because of your attacks. And now you want to say that, that the fact that they can't inspect it is Iran's fault. It's your fault. Excuse me. We're just saying allow inspectors in. Iran's mission to the IAEA had warned the board to be cautious on the path forward. Iran bristles at resolutions against it and has responded to previous ones by escalating its atomic activities or scaling back cooperation with the IAEA. The resolution said Iran should provide the agency with complete information on nuclear material inventories and grant the IAEA the access it needs to verify that without delay. The United States and Iran are in talks aimed at extending their ceasefire and paving the way for wider negotiations on issues relating to Iran's nuclear program. Trump appeared to express frustration at the negotiations, having repeatedly said for months that the two sides are close to an initial agreement. Iran is all talk and no action, Trump posted on Wednesday. They've taken too long to negotiate a deal that would have been great for them. Now they will have to pay the price. Trump has said Iran must not be able to produce a nuclear weapon. Iran said it never would. A key aim of Trump's is removing Iran's enriched uranium, particularly the 440.9 kilograms enriched up to 60% purity, a short step from the roughly 90% weapons grade the IAEA estimates Iran had until the first Israeli strikes on June 13th of last year. Okay, look, this is kind of, if Trump is talking about how we're getting close to a deal and we're going to get the enriched uranium out, and the Iranians won't even let the IAEA go in and inspect, they won't even reveal what the inventory is, then we're much further away from a resolution of this issue through an agreement than anyone ever thought. And especially the way Trump is talking today, and the Americans backed this resolution. I think that the purpose of this resolution, we knew that the Iranians weren't going to, we're going to lash out at it. I think that the purpose of this resolution, remember, the U.S. backed this resolution. Think of the timing. I believe that this resolution was put forward to simply shine a light on the fact that the Iranians are not willing to move forward. You see, in the negotiations with the U.S., they can string them along and they can say, well, yeah, we'll talk. Let's get a memorandum of understanding, ease up the sanctions, and then we can talk about these issues. This forces their hand. You pass a resolution, the IAEA is simply saying, we just want to see it all. And when Iran balks at it, that shows that they're actually not willing to budge. And this comes, this is from 2 days earlier, where in advance of the resolution, the IAEA called on Iran to re-engage as the West pressures it with a resolution. It talks about how this resolution is coming. It's very important that we re-engage, Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, told the Board of Governors. I call on Iran to engage the agency constructively in order to facilitate the full and effective implementation of safeguards in Iran. I have sporadic contacts with their foreign minister and others, but basically the channel of communication is broken. And the text of the resolution seen by Reuters orders Iran to provide complete information on the enriched uranium and grant the IAEA all the access it needs to verify it without delay. This is clearly tied to what Trump is trying to do in these negotiations. This was an American-backed resolution. This didn't come out of nowhere. Okay. Now, I want to give some background context here. So this is from May 21st, so a few weeks back. Kremlin says Putin shared proposal to transfer Iran's uranium to Russia with Xi behind closed doors. They discussed Iran during the tea meeting, Kremlin spokesperson says, stressing that Tehran and Washington should discuss Moscow's proposal. And who vetoed this resolution, or who voted against it? They didn't veto it. It's not a veto. Sorry, it's not a UN Security Council resolution. Who voted against it? Russia and China and Niger, right? Russia and China voted against it. And here are Russia and China saying, well, it's actually, they're having a conversation about this proposal to transfer Iran's uranium to Russia. And he discussed it with Xi Jinping. So what does it say here? Tehran and Washington should discuss Moscow's proposal. Tehran and Washington, Iran and the US, right? They should discuss Moscow's proposal to transfer Iran's enriched uranium to Russia, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said. Speaking at a press conference in Moscow, he said the U.S. has not yet accepted the proposal. They discussed Iran during the team meeting. He shared the idea. He declined to provide additional details. And then they talked about Cuba. They talked about a different issue. And then we have this from last week. Iran agrees to transfer part of its enriched uranium stockpile, likely to China. Iran has agreed to transfer part of its enriched uranium stockpile to a third state, with China proposed as the recipient as part of a potential nuclear deal with the United States. This was reported by the Al Arabiya television channel, citing its own sources familiar with the negotiations. According to the publication, Tehran has officially informed Pakistan of its readiness to transfer part of its accumulated uranium to a country agreed upon by all parties to the future deal. It is reported that such a move is being considered as one of the possible elements of resolving disputes surrounding Iran's nuclear program and reducing tensions in relation to the United States. Exactly which country may be chosen to store or control the uranium stockpiles has not yet been specified. There's speculations that it would be China. The volume of material could be transferred outside Iran in the event of a final agreement. And that remains unknown. Negotiations between Washington and Tehran have been ongoing, and it's noteworthy that as early as late May, Reuters reported that Iran had refused to transfer its stockpiles of highly enriched uranium abroad. So now it seems like they're changing their tune and they're willing to move it to China. Oh, lovely. And we know that, of course, Xi Jinping agreed with President Trump at their recent meeting that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. But Trump is not having any of it. Trump opposes Russia or China taking Iran's highly enriched uranium. This is from late May, from May 27th, just a few days after that previous story. President Donald Trump poured cold water on the prospect of Iran transferring its store of highly enriched uranium to Russia or China as part of any deal to end the war. No, I wouldn't be comfortable with that arrangement, Trump said during a cabinet meeting at the White House. The Kremlin, which has the world's largest stockpile of nuclear weapons, has previously said it would accept Iran's enriched uranium to help facilitate a peace deal. China has also been speculated to be willing to take in that material. Trump declared in a Truth Social post that Iran's enriched uranium will be destroyed either in the U.S., in the Islamic Republic itself, or at another acceptable location. Okay. Now, we also have this item, and this comes from March. In the middle of all of the attacks on Iran, we have this report of a phone call between Trump and Putin, where Putin agreed with Trump. Look at this. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed that Iran should not be allowed to acquire weapons that would allow it to eliminate Israel, the White House said on Tuesday. They further discussed the need to stop proliferation of strategic weapons and will engage with others in the broadest possible to ensure the broadest possible application. The two leaders shared the view that Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel. So there you see, wow, Putin agrees that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. What's the issue here? Look at this. This is from September 2025. So last year, a few months before the war started, Iran and Russia signed a $25 billion deal to build 4 nuclear plants. Now, let me be very clear. Iran has no need for a domestic nuclear program. They don't need, they have an electricity crisis. They are one of the largest energy producing nations in the world. Their claim that they need domestic nuclear energy is a cover for the fact that they want to have a nuclear weapons program. Okay? That's what it is. And Russia signed a $25 billion deal to build 4 nuclear plants. 4 nuclear plants. A deal for the construction of 4 nuclear power plants with a value of $25 billion in Erick, Hormozgan, that is right in the Straits of Hormuz, was signed between the Iran Hormuz Company and Rosatom. Iran has just 1 operational nuclear power plant in Bushehr in the south. Okay, and this is from the Moscow Times. This is, independent news from Russia, so to speak. Okay, now, look at this. This is from the MEMRI website, the Middle East Media Research Institute. And this is an interview that was done on Al Jazeera. It was an Arabic Al Jazeera. He's speaking Russian, and then there's subtitles. I'm not going to play you the clip. I'm just going to read to you the summary of what happened in this interview. Alexei Likachev, Director General of Russia's State Atomic Energy Corporation, Rosatom. So he's the Director General of Rosatom. That's basically the state, nuclear energy company. That's the company that signed that this $25 billion deal is with, right? Rosatom. Okay, so the head of Rosatom was interviewed on Al Jazeera. This is May 26th, just 2 weeks ago. And he discussed the status of cooperation with Iran's nuclear industry. 2 weeks ago. He said that 20 Russian specialists remain at the Bushehr nuclear power plant, and 4 more are in Tehran coordinating with Iranian counterparts. But Russia is waiting for the conflict to end so work at the site can resume and additional Russian personnel can return. At the same time, he said, work in Russia on equipment for a second reactor at Bushehr continues, with much of the equipment already more than 60% complete. Likachev said that while military operations have affected cooperation between Rosatom and Iran's nuclear authorities, Moscow and Tehran continue to maintain correspondence and contact. We have big plans for continued development of our cooperation in the future. He said, adding that Iranian scientists are doing their best to advance the Bushehr project. He also said that Russia is prepared to do everything possible to reduce tensions and help de-escalate the international political dispute over Iran's nuclear program. He argued that the IAEA had not done everything necessary to prevent or reduce the escalation and should now adopt a more productive stance to help reach a compromise. He said that one major obstacle is the American demand that Iran's highly enriched uranium be transferred to the United States, which Tehran considers unacceptable. Lukashev added that Russia, including President Putin, personally has stated its willingness to play a reasonable role in de-escalation efforts and that Rosatom is prepared to help find a technological solution to the dispute. And that deal signed in September, just in case you think it was signed in September, that's before the war. Is it moving forward? You see the way this guy is talking. And also we have this from last Thursday, just less than a week ago. Iran, Russia push ahead with $25 billion nuclear plant and trade corridor. Iran and Russia are accelerating work on the international north-south transport corridor and expanding civil nuclear cooperation, including a $25 billion memorandum signed in 2025 for a major new power plant in Hormozgan, Iran's ambassador to Moscow says. And look at this report from November 2025. And it's a report on a few meetings that were held in 2024. This is a Times of Israel report on a number of different Financial Times stories. So the reporting in here is actually from the Financial Times. Iranian scientists tied to nuclear work secretly visited Russia last year. Now, just in case you think that they're interested in domestic nuclear energy, look at the details of this story. Iranian scientists with ties to the regime made a secret trip last year, meaning in 2024, because this was written in 2025, to Russia, where they met with military experts and may have sought to advance nuclear weapons work, the Financial Times reported. Citing various documents it had obtained, the newspaper said the visiting scientists were connected to institutions previously implicated in nuclear work and that the visit on November 7th to 11th, 2024, right, a year and a half ago, was arranged by an organization serving as a front for Iran's Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, the military body Western officials believe is behind Iran's nuclear weapons research. The Financial Times said the visit was the second last year and included meetings with sanctioned Russian company Laser Systems, which develops lasers for civilian and military use. Now, if you're just doing civilian domestic energy, why do you need your nuclear scientists to meet with a laser company? In addition, Andrei Savin, a former technical director at Laser Systems and now a professor at Baltic State Technical University, a Russian military school, traveled in February this year to Tehran, where he met officials believed to be linked to SBND. That's the Iranian agency we're talking about here, the Organization for Defensive Innovation and Research, and also representatives from Damavantech, considered a front company for SBND. In October, the U.S. sanctioned Damavantech and its CEO, Ali Kalvand, accusing them of trying to obtain items applicable to the development of nuclear explosive devices. Nicole Drajewski at the Carnegie Endowment's Nuclear Policy Program told the Financial Times that the meetings are strong evidence that Russia was assisting Iran in its nuclear weapons-related research, and noted that the activities appeared to have been approved at a high level on the Russian and Iranian sides. Former CIA analyst Jim Lamson, now senior research associate at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, told the Financial Times it appears that the Iranian group was seeking laser technology and expertise that could help them validate a nuclear weapon design without conducting a nuclear explosive test. In August, the Financial Times reported on a previous trip by Iranian nuclear scientists to view Russian facilities working on technologies relevant to nuclear weapons production. Okay. What do we see in all of this? President Trump is no fool. He's not going to buy the Putin-Xi offer to take the uranium. He's using the IAEA to put forward this resolution demanding immediate transparency from Iran on its enriched uranium, which they admit that they have, as a way of forcing their hand. And just in case anyone thinks that the enriched uranium could be used for domestic use, as I'm showing you here, the nuclear ambitions are pretty clear with who they're meeting with in Russia. The Russians and the Chinese who voted against this resolution of the IAEA, and both are offering to take the uranium, are also the best friends of Iran. The Chinese have also been reported as giving a lot of the components for the ballistic missile program that Iran has developed. And the Russians, as we see, are invested heavily in building out nuclear power plants in Iran. So keep your eyes on the Chinese and the Russians as we move forward. And as the enriched uranium continues to be talked about, pay attention to what they're doing, pay attention to what they're saying. They are not neutral parties here. They are not maybe some people, oh, they have a good relationship with Iran, maybe we could work with them. And also keep your eye on Pakistan. I made a few videos about Pakistan in the past, and you saw them mentioned in here as having had conversations with the Chinese about coming to a resolution. The Pakistanis should never have been mediators here. They are basically a proxy of the Chinese. I talked about this in a previous video. The Chinese provide something like 80% of all of the military equipment that Pakistan uses. The Pakistani foreign minister has said openly that he's been working very closely with Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, of the Chinese Communist Party, throughout this war. So the Russians, the Chinese, and the Pakistanis are really all working together to try to prevent President Trump, to try to prevent the West from dismantling the Iranian nuclear program or doing something about the enriched uranium. So this is something to watch. This is what I wanted to share with you. No great revelation here, but just a little bit of a headline about this IAEA resolution that looks like just one of these boring diplomatic headlines is actually speaking to things coming to a head. The timing of this, let me circle back to that. The timing of this resolution cannot be overstated. That right now, with everything coming to a head, the way things are escalating in the Strait of Hormuz, and Trump is, tweeting today, the same day as this resolution, you have Trump putting out a Truth Social post saying that they don't want to make a deal and they're going to pay the price for it. And you have this resolution coming out, which is shining a light on the fact that they have no intention of ever talking about the enriched uranium. If they won't even let inspectors come in to see it and give some transparency on what they have, they're certainly never going to agree to have it taken out of Iran. Okay, that's the real punchline of this whole video. That's what I wanted to share with you. We've got to pay attention to all these headlines. That's why I'm here. Thank you for watching. Please tell others about this channel, about what we're doing here. Just really trying to stay as informed as we can. And please drop a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm open to criticism. I read a lot of the comments, and I do get things wrong sometimes. And I'm totally grateful to all of you when you let me know it. So be well. God bless you.